Good morning, students. Today we're going to be learning about histograms. So these are a type of graph, as you'll see in the next slides. A histogram is a graphic display. It can only display numerical data, which means numbers. So it only displays number data. It's not, you can't do colors, you can't do your favorite pet or anything like that. It's only numbers. As well as you can see that it's made of bars. So it's not X's, it's not lines, they're bars. So it kind of looks like a bar chart, which we've talked about earlier. But instead of having each bar represent just one number, these bars represent a range of numbers. So as you can see on the chart below, our very first bar represents ages 20 to 30. So when we make our own histograms, we are also going to use ranges and not just one single number. Using a histogram, it displays the shape and the spread of data, so we can see, because it's a visual thing, the shape of it, see if it looks like a curve, see if it only looks like a ramp, and to see the spread. So how big is it? How small of it? Are they really close together? Are they really spread out? And things like that. So why are histograms important? Creating histograms just makes it 10 times easier to look at your data set you've been given, because sometimes data sets aren't organized very well. So being able to create a histogram makes you see some patterns that you might not have seen before. So it helps us determine factors about our data set, which could be like, we could find our average. We could figure out what shape is it in. Are there less people on one side than there are in the other side? So like in our top picture here, there's what's called a left skew and a right skew. So in our left skew, we don't have very many people on the left side, but we have a lot of people on the right side in those categories. It's also a visual representation of our numerical data. So instead of just looking at numbers all day, we're looking at a graph so we can kind of see those trends and patterns happening from our data set. And maybe we could, maybe it's from an experiment. So we could revise our experiment if our data set and our histogram doesn't look the way we wanted it to. So some conclusions can be made about the data because of the graph. So, and you see in the bottom picture, there's a red box around this little itty bitty bar out on the right-hand side. That's called an outlier. So maybe we did this experiment and all of a sudden we have this outlier where we don't know why. So it shows us something about our data set that we may not have caught in the first place. Some real world examples that I found for you guys are, we could talk about earnings. So the red histogram at the very top is weekly earnings for students aged 13 to 17, and then it has it in dollars below at the bottom. And then below that chart, there's one about heights of adults by gender. So you can see pink is women and blue is men, and you can see those different trends and see kind of their overlap is kind of a purpley blue color. And we can make assumptions, some conclusions maybe about what we know about the heights of each of the genders. We can use it for lots of other things besides these things. You could talk about hours spent playing video games or playing on your phone even. You could do the weights of cookies for all I care. But you can make histograms with any set of numerical data. Good morning, students. It's Miss V. This is going to be me creating a histogram example for you guys to look back on when you create your own very soon. So our first step is to look at our data set. So this is our data set. Our data set is based on students in Miss V's class, and we have all of their names, as well as how tall they are, their height in inches, which are these numbers on the right. So I'm going to move this up here so we can still look at it, but now we're going to look at our numbers and figure out where we want our bins to be. So our bins are going to be our range that we use to make our bars in our histogram chart. So I can see right now that our lowest number in inches is 51. So 51 is our lowest. This is going to be our low. And our highest, I believe, is 62. And these are both in inches. So we need to think about these numbers when we create our bins. So now that we have that out of the way, we are going to create our axes. So first we're going to make our axis going up and down and our side to side axis. Perfect. So I'm just going to draw some lines on, which are going to be where our bins are. I'm trying to make these evenly spread apart. And I'm also going to make some on the lines on our left-hand side as well. So now we're going to add some labels. So at the bottom of our chart, the one that's going side to side, this is going to be our height ranges. So we're going to call this height. We know that this is in inches. And then on our left side, this is going to be number of students that fall within those ranges. So I'm just going to say number of students. Next, we're going to go back to the top of our thing where we talked about the low and our high. So I'm thinking that we should do each of our bins with 2 inches each, which means that this first bin would be heights 51 to 52, and then 53 to 54, 55 to 56, 57 to 58, and so on. So I'm going to label that right now very quickly. I'm actually even going to turn my page sideways just so I can write them nicer. I'm not even going to need this last bin, but I drew it on there anyways. You can always extend your graph if you need to. So now we're going to go back. We're going to look at our chart. Oops, you guys can't see that. And we're going to figure out how many people are 51 to 52 inches tall. So looking at our data set, I can see 1, 2, 3 students who are 51 to 52 inches tall. So then I know that I need to make my bar 3 students high. So this equals 1 student, 2 students, 3 students, and I'll make my bar from there. We could color them in, but I'm just gonna not and save time. So then we're going to do the same all the way down. I'll come back in just a second. So this is the final histogram we were able to create together with our data set that I provided about the heights of our students. Mango is very excited to see all the histograms that you guys create.